Welcome, friends. It's episode 114 of the Nope Coach podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Culberg, and today we're chatting about glimmers. So I have an unwritten rule that if I see something 3 times, I pay attention to it. And within the last couple of days, 3 times it's come across my newsfeed on Facebook, this thing about glimmers being the opposite of triggers. So I'm going to read the post out to you. Many of you may have heard of it, or you may not, but now you will. The post goes, have you heard about glimmers? They are the opposite of triggers. A glimmer is a tiny micro moment of happiness, a sign of hope. Once you begin to look for them, they'll start to appear everywhere. I think this is magical, truly magical, because what we look for, we see. So there is a video. It's called the selective attention test. I really encourage you, if you haven't watched it, because I'm going to spoil it right here. So if you want to watch it, pause this video or audio as you're listening to it. I'll give you a few moments. If you're anything like me and you're listening while you wash up, so your hands are wet and you're scrambling for it, I really, really encourage you, pause this, go to YouTube, type in selective attention test. The video goes for like 1 minute and 15 seconds and watch that. And I'll trust that you've paused that. And if you're listening without pausing and thinking, oh, I'll do it later, and I give you the spoiler alert, then that's on you. So in this selective attention test, you're asked to count the number of times a ball passes between people. I think they're wearing white shirts. And I remember watching it intently and being so very excited at the end when I got the number of passes right. It's like, yes. And then the following message came up on the screen. It's like, but did you see the gorilla? I was like, wait, what? And then it showed the gorilla walking across the screen, pausing, beating its chest and walking back off the screen. I literally had to rewind the video to watch it again. They subsequently posted a book called, got it somewhere here, I was reading it very recently, called The Invisible Gorilla, which I read and I find fascinating because apparently 50% of people don't see the gorilla. So half. I'm in the half that didn't see it. How does a gorilla tie to glimmers? What you look for, you see. So I know when I'm in a down place, a struggle place, a dark place, I see a lot of my triggers everywhere, every day, and sometimes what feels like every moment. This is triggering, that is triggering, I like to say activating rather than triggering, but that's a whole story for another episode. But when we look for glimmers, we see them. So in that video, the selective attention test with the invisible gorilla, you are asked to look for how many passes of the ball between the people in the white shirts. So that is what you see. When you focus so intently on that, you don't notice a giant gorilla walk across the screen, stop, beat its chest and walk on. So even if the glimmers we tend to discount, downplay, ignore because they're so small, but the more we pay attention to them, the more we pause, the more we, actually record them in one such way, shape, or form, the more of them that we see. So I really encourage you, what are your glimmers and how do you notice them, make note of them, record them? So at the end of every day, I do what I call a mini harvest. I talk a lot about harvesting in the Why Wait program, but a mini harvest. And I wasn't calling them glimmers, but perhaps now I will. I make note of my glimmers from that day. They can be the tiniest of things. A very recent example, I was walking the kids to school. There was a lot of traffic. I live in Sydney and my daughter's injured at the moment, so she's kind of hobbling. These people literally stopped on a mainish road and let us cross because I thought we were going to be there for ages. That was such a wonderful glimmer. Like, please don't comment about traffic safety and all that sort of stuff. Like, don't put shit on my glimmers. Another thing is kind of like I have this particular type of rice cracker that I like, these salt and vinegar ones. and I went to the shelf and the shelves were empty. And I was like, oh, bummer. So I went to pick up a packet of the plain, like, not just the salt ones. And behind that was a salt and vinegar packet. I was like, there was one packet left on the shelf. It was meant for me. What a glimmer. They can be bigger things too, but they can also be the smallest of things. Sitting outside in the sun on any given day, especially now that it's winter and, seasonal affective disorder is totally a thing. Enjoying the sun for me is a glimmer. Some of the lovely comments I get on this podcast or emails, like I very recently took down the ability to DM me, because most of the time, almost all of my DMs are some copy paste spam shit, someone trying to sell me something, and I can't stand it. It doesn't mean I don't like to be contacted, but I don't like to be spammed. There's a difference. So if you send me a legitimate message, like an email, info@suzanneculberg.com, or head over to my website, suzanneculberg.com, and go to the contact page and send me a message, I love those. What are your glimmers, big or small? Because if you take time to harvest them and notice them every single day, you end in an upward spiral. We can see when we get in a downward spiral of triggered and activated. Actively looking for our glimmers can send us into an upward spiral. So that's my encouragement for you today, to, make note of and record in some way, shape, or form your glimmers, and notice that the more you pay attention to them, the more that they grow. And remind yourself of that selective inattention video. If you are looking, what you're looking for, you see. So you might be listening to this and go, oh, well, I don't have any glimmers. But now that you're aware of them, I really love to hear how much more they show up in your life. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you're not yet on my newsletter list, head over to my website, suzanneculberg.com, go over to newsletters, sign up. I send a email once a week or so, and I would love to drop into your inbox. Catch you on the next one. Bye for now.